Hi everyone, this is another topic on the amoebas. We'll be discussing here on the free-living pathogenic amoeba, the Naegleria fowleri and Acanthamoeba. These are the required readings, and these are only the two parasites for this topic. Generally, the characteristics of free-living amoeba is that, of course, from the name itself, they are free-living. They do not live inside the intestinal lumen. They are opportunistic pathogens in humans, and they are facultative parasites. When you say opportunistic, if a person gets immunocompromised, they are at risk of getting infection. But if you are a healthy, normal person with a good immune system, most likely you don't get this infection. For facultative parasites, when you say facultative, they can exist inside your body, they can exist in the environment, meaning they are highly adaptable to whatever environment that they're in. They are widely distributed in soil and water, and we have two species of free-living amoeba of medical importance, the Naegleria fowleri and Acanthamoeba castellani. Now, this table shows you the difference between the intestinal amoeba and free-living amoeba. In terms of their habitat, the intestinal amoeba lives in the intestines, while free-living amoeba, they live in the soil and water. In terms of pathogenicity, intestinal amoeba, especially Entamoeba histolytica, are really pathogenic. They are diseases in the colon, liver, and other extraintestinal sites, while the free-living amoeba, they are usually opportunistic and affects the central nervous system, cornea, and skin. Flagellated forms of intestinal amoeba is absent, and free-living may be present. Naegleria fowleri is the only amoeba with three known morphologic forms. They have the amoeboid trophozoites, the flagellate form, and the cyst. Okay, the flagellate form pertains to the protozoa that move by means of flagella. The trophozoite of Naegleria fowleri, they are rounded and elongated, measuring around 15 to 30 microns. This is the infective stage of the parasite. It contains a single nucleus, and they feed and divide by binary fission. They can be transformed into flagellate and cyst form, and they're usually found in the cerebrospinal fluid and tissue. This is the typical appearance of the trophozoite of Naegleria fowleri, and this table shows you the typical characteristic of the trophozoite. Its motility is slug-like. They have a blunt pseudopods. The caryosome is large and usually centrally located, but for this picture, it is eccentrically located. The flagellate form of the Naegleria fowleri is pear-shaped. This is the unique feature. It is a pear shape, typically measuring 7 to 15 microns. The flagella has two whip-like structures that assist and select parasites in locomotion. It has an anterior nucleus. When you say anterior, it refers to the proximity of the flagella. If the flagella determines the where the front and back of the parasite. So if it's anterior, it is where usually you can find the flagella. It is found in water in 27 to 37 degrees Celsius. It's non-feeding and non-dividing, and they can be transformed to the amoeboid form. Now, the cyst form of Naegleria fowleri, it measures around 9 to 12 microns. They are round and have thick cell walls. It has only one nucleus consisting of large centrally located caryosome lacking peripheral chromatin. They are usually found in soil and never in tissue. So this is the usual life cycle of the Naegleria fowleri. So from the cyst, they can be transformed into an amoeboid trophozoite. Then that amoeboid trophozoites can develop into the flagellated form. That flagellated form can be converted back to amoeboid trophozoite. Now that amoeboid trophozoite can form into cysts. It's the amoeboid trophozoite that is infective to man. So what happens during infection? The swimming or diving in warm water, such as aspiration of water contaminated in Naegleria fowleri trophozoite, it causes now the invasion of the trophozoite through our central nervous system. So the trophozoite is neurotropic, meaning they like the central nervous system, they like nerves. So what happens during this infection is that once water infected with trophozoites of Naegleria fowleri enters the nose, it enters to the olfactory mucosa and to the olfactory bulb. Now remember, the olfactory nerve or olfactory bulb, it contains olfactory nerves, which is the cranial nerve 1. It enters the cribriform plate of the skull and enters into the subarachnoid space. Now, this will now result into the primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, which is usually fatal. It is the hemorrhagic inflammation of the meninges and the brain. So, meningoencephalitis, meningo means the covering of the brain, and encephalitis refers to the brain substance. So, we have inflammation of both the meninges and the brain substance itself. And this will result into in the necrosis of brain tissue. The amoeba is the only form detected in brain tissue. Flagellates and cysts are never found in tissues or the cerebrospinal fluid. Okay, this illustration shows you how Naegleria fowleri affects individuals and what happens to our brain. So you have hemorrhagic necrosis of the brain substance or encephalitis, and Naegleria fowleri is usually fatal, meaning a large percentage of individuals affected by this infection will result into death. And please read on the typical clinical features of Naegleria fowleri, how it presents. For Acanthamoeba castellani, they are usually found in dust, soil, sand, and river ponds. Unlike in Naegleria fowleri, Acanthamoeba castellani only exists in two forms. They have trophozoites and cysts. Both of stages may exist in the environment and tissues. In man, they can affect the central nervous system, the eye, skin, and lungs. Acanthamoeba castellani is notable for its opportunistic parasite and causes severe disease in immunocompromised patients, especially those with HIV and primary immunodeficiencies. The trophozoites of these parasites are variable in shape. They measure around 10 to 40 microns in diameter. They have these structures called acanthopodia, which are slender spine-like projection of plasma membrane. They contain a contractile vacuole and a nucleus with large central karyosome. This is the typical characteristics of the Acanthamoeba trophozoites. And here you see the acanthopodia. It's a better illustration of the acanthopodia. These are the spine-like projection of the plasma membrane. That is one characteristic of the trophozoites of Acanthamoeba castellani. The cyst of this parasite is polygonal, spherical, or star-shaped. It's 15 to 20 microns in diameter. It has a double wall, an outer smooth irregular ectocyst, and inner rough polyhedral endocyst with many pores or osteoles. So, does that mean here you see a double wall? It is an added protection. The wall contains pores, although not visible here. We have an osteoles. So, very characteristic also for Acanthamoeba castellani is their wall. It has a double wall, added extra protection. You have two different types of clinical entity that is caused by Acanthamoeba castellani. The first one is the granulomatous amoebic encephalitis, which affects immunocompromised individuals. Now, what makes it different from the Naegleria fowleri? Now, in Naegleria fowleri, even if you have a good immune system, even if you are not immunocompromised, meaning you are immunocompetent, you are still at risk of developing the meningoencephalitis. Okay? And the type of meningoencephalitis is usually hemorrhagic meningoencephalitis. But for Acanthamoeba castellani, the population of people infected in this one are immunocompromised. They are purely immunocompromised, meaning their immune system is down. So if you go out swimming to the pool or to the lake and then you accidentally inhaled water containing Acanthamoeba castellani and then you are healthy, then more likely than not, you'll not be infected. So for Acanthamoeba castellani, this is also unique because the course is subacute or chronic, meaning it takes a long time to develop. And please take note of the granulomatous formation. They form granuloma in deeper brain tissue. When you say granuloma, this is a mass containing a lot of granulomatous tissue consisting of cells such as lymphocytes, monocytes, macrophages, and the parasite itself. They usually presents with headache, seizures, stiff neck, nausea, and vomiting. The tissues contain trophozoites, cysts, and multinucleate giant cells, which are the activated form of the macrophages. The second clinical entity caused by Acanthamoeba castellani is the amoebic keratitis. This is direct contact of cornea with contaminated water or contact lens. You usually present with chronic progressive ulcerative keratitis. The vision is usually affected with neutrophilic infiltration. Patients with amoebic keratitis will present with loss of vision. Trophozoites and cysts are present in the corneal tissue in this infection. So you see here the deposition of neutrophils and the parasites in the cornea. Please take note that the infection happens in the cornea, not in the conjunctiva, not in the iris, not in the retina. So it is found in the cornea. Now this table shows you the difference between the characteristics of the free-living amoeba between the Naegleria fowleri and Acanthamoeba. So study this one in order to have a good comparison between the two.